Hi, welcome back to PSL Living. I'm Jenny Newell. Unfortunately, bullying still very much affects kids of all ages. Kelly Starling with AT&T is here to talk more about the things AT&T is doing to hopefully help combat some of this, report some of this.
Right, we have some tips and tools, and I just went through some of the apps that are available to everyone, not just to AT&T customers, that can help them protect their kids from bullying. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 1 in 3 kids reports being bullied at school.
Wow.
And while that face-to-face bullying is still out there and is still common, cyberbullying, which is anything to do with, like, there's social media sites, if it's texting, picture messaging, email, any of electronic, that type of bullying is really increasing.
Right.
And in some ways, it's almost more harmful than the face-to-face bullying because it's so invasive.
Absolutely.
The victim can't get away from it. It can be 24/7, and it can be day, it can be night.
And it's a much larger audience.
Exactly, and it can be done anonymously, so it's almost impossible to trace it back to the person who's doing the bullying.
Right.
So that's why I thought it'd be a good time to talk about, you know, some of the tools that are available for the parents and some of the apps.
Right.
One of the apps that I wanted to tell you about is, let's say, the Bully Block app.
Okay.
So, and that's a free app, and all the apps I'll talk about are free.
Okay.
Some of them have the option to get a little more features for money, but all these are free for the basic service they provide. So for Bully Block, basically, it lets you go in and block calls or text messages from anyone that you know is trying to harass your kid. And the good thing about it is it also has the ability to block. You know, some people will use those unknown caller or privates, you can't see who it's coming from. It will even block those. And it has the ability for your child to record audio so that if they needed evidence to say to a school safety official, to the parent, to the teacher, look, this is what's happening, they can do that. And another similar app to that is called what was it? Bully Stop. And so it's the same concept, to block unwanted calls and text messages and picture messages. But with that one, it also keeps a running log of all contact that has been attempted with your child. So again, it gives you proof. You can say, look, like, you know, this is going on. It helps give you some proof for the case that your child's being bullied.
Absolutely, and especially with kids. I mean, even adults, you know, he said, she said, but if you have it right there, I mean, it's hard to you know, it's hard to challenge that. It's hard to argue with that.
And that will help because a lot of times administrators can't do anything without having the evidence. And that brings me to another app that is very good. A lot of kids don't want to report or tell on someone for any type of bullying, for that matter, because they want, A, they're afraid of the repercussions, and B, a lot of kids are worried about, oh, I'm going to be, you know, they'll think I'm a rat or I'm a tattletale. So with Tip Submit Mobile, they can go in and they can anonymously submit information about any type of bullying that they themselves have been impacted by or that they've witnessed. So that is kind of encourages them to, you know, report it. Don't worry, no one's going to know who told us about it. So that tool is out there as well, and that's free. And basically, that is linked into a database. They have like over 1,000 communities involved, and it goes to Crime Stoppers, or it can go to school safety officials. So even since it can go to Crime Stoppers, you can even get an award, reward, excuse me, if you report something bullying that actually can lead to a crime. So that's a good one to know. And there's a lot of those types of apps that are out there. Go to whatever device you're carrying, just go to the App Store and look it up. But again, you and I have talked about this before too, but tips for parents: number one, just know what sites your child is visiting, and sit down and talk to them about it and let them know what's off limits and what's not. And that means, like, if they're on social media sites, friend them or follow them, or if you'd rather have a close friend you know you can trust do that to help keep an eye. I know people who do that. To help keep an eye on what's going on. And tell your children that as a responsible parent, you know, you want their passwords. You won't use them unless it's an emergency, unless there's some reason for you to have concern, but you need to have that. And then again, remind them, you know, think about what you're going to post. If it's, don't post something that's going to be embarrassing or hurtful, because that is a type of bullying. And just have those conversations and establish the rules, and check with most of the kids today have smartphones, so check with whomever your wireless provider is. Again, ask about what additional parental controls they have. And if you have internet service at home, the same thing. I know with the mobile, we have smart limits, which gives you a lot of control over your child's phone. You know, again,
like time windows.
Like if you
that
say,
they
okay, they can't use this phone for calls, for texting, they can't receive calls or texts, they can't make calls or texts between 8 and 2 when they're at school. I mean, it really gives you a lot of control.
Absolutely.
And you can monitor usage and all that as well.
Right.
So.
It may be a little time consuming to sort of start that and put those things in place, but once they're in place, then you just have that, like you said, a little bit more of maybe of a peace of mind, and you can be able to track and monitor sort of the movements, if you will.
And to remind them that anything that they, again, if they post some type of picture or something that's not nice, it could be really hard to delete it.
Absolutely.
It's out there. And don't also, some people might share their passwords with their friends. Tell them not to do that. It can compromise your online identity. And
absolutely.
Some kids have done that, and it's.
And you know how kids are.
I mean,
you go through, you know, I'm best friends with this person this week, and the next week I'm not. And if it's a situation like that, and that person's trying to retaliate, you know, drama.
While technology can be good and has benefited us, again, you have to have some safety measures in place to make sure that your kid doesn't become a victim and is using it the right way themselves.
Absolutely. And there was just a recent community event talking about bullying as well.
Yes, Pink Shirt Day, which is a national observance and is observed locally. The whole point of that day came about from a student in Canada, actually, who once he wore a pink shirt he wore a pink shirt to school one day, and he was bullied because of it. So a bunch of kids in the school got together and they all went and bought these cheap pink t-shirts, and they wore them the next day to show support, you know, stand up against bullying. So now it's becoming big, major national observance. So now would be a good time for parents, it's top of mind, to sit down and talk to them about that.
Absolutely. And it's completely unacceptable, and it is enforced. I mean, it's not, again, zero tolerance in schools for that kind of thing, and it could really be detrimental to a child, you know, who's going through school, their whole school experience. You know, you don't want it to be tainted with that kind of behavior. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. That's great information. And then to get those apps, you can just go
into the App Store on whatever device, because a lot of these apps are available on Android devices, iOS devices, Windows devices. So whatever device you're carrying, look in the App Store of that device. Just type in, if you type in bullying,
just bullying.
I mean, a long list of apps will come up. And like I said, there's a lot of free ones out there.
Right. Well, you gave some great examples. So thank you so much for coming
you're
by.
welcome.
This is a big issue, obviously, and the more awareness that there is, and like you said, more parent involvement, you know, hopefully this will cease at some point. So Kelly Starling with AT&T, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely. And we'll be right back after these messages.